Section 4.2 this week is about how global issues require global cooperation. So, David Held wrote a fabulous paper about global transformations, globalization, cosmopolitanism, and democracy. And a couple of the quotes that I really like from this paper are the first one was that the problems we have transcend the capacity of nation states to deal with them. So no one country can fix climate change or drug trafficking or child exploitation or human rights violations or um, the world's water crisis. We can't do this by ourselves. So um, to we need to work together because we are in a world of overlapping communities of fate. What happens to us is going to happen to them, and what we do is going to affect them, and vice versa. And what he sees as the threat in the modern world is inequality. And this was 12 years ago, and it's gotten worse since then. Inequality is so vast that markets become the dominant organizational forces. So the power shifts from governments to markets, and we'll probably revisit this idea a few times over our unit. Business as usual will mean that issues are resolved by the most powerful countries according to their geopolitical aim, or the most powerful companies in their own interests. But we are all equal in dignity, in value, and we share a common universe, and we have a right to agency, and we have a right to a stable framework of law, to opportunity, accountability, so that everyone can flourish. So these are some of the global issues that I just came up with as examples. One is war and geopolitical upheaval. Certainly hasn't been great over the last, let's say, 5 or 6 or 7 years. The Geneva Academy monitors all the armed conflicts in the world, and surprisingly to me, it is monitoring 110 different armed conflicts in the world. It's not just Iran and Gaza and Lebanon and Ukraine, but there's many others, Yemen, etc., etc. Unfortunately, Australia sticking to we're behind the US, swallowing the, like putting out the same message as the US is doing, that Iran is threatening international peace and security, which I find quite a strange thing to say. But I don't know what they know, I guess. But it just doesn't seem to me that it was Iran that threatened international peace and security. Trade is another thing. Inflation carries around the world, shocks in one country affect others. For example, the global financial crisis. And this is the price of crude oil. Now that it's affecting Australians and Australians are unhappy, that makes Albo unhappy. And now he's saying that Trump is making it very difficult for the world with his ever-changing positions on the war because it's hurting our economy. The health of our oceans is a matter for global governance and cooperation. The control of AI is a matter of international concern, and of social media as well. So here we've got Grok AI that produces a naked figure of a person. If you just put a clothed figure of a person into it. And what can we do about that? This is that kind of thing that has to happen on a global basis, but are we ever going to get every country in the world to agree? No. So some European countries have banned Grok, and but But Grok has said, well, it's not our fault. Blame the users. um, this is a criticism of Australia's official plan for AI safety. Uh, here's a graph of the amount of electricity generated worldwide. So we know that transitioning to a carbon-free energy system is essential for mitigating global warming. And renewables is the green one, obviously. Nuclear is the yellow one. Gas is the light blue, and coal is the dark blue. So what we can see is the proportion and the amount of renewables is increasing. So if you can't see the numbers, that's 2014 on the left, 2026 on the right. Over the last 12 years, we've increased the amount of renewables, and almost all the new capacity building is in renewables. However, the gas and coal is still increasing because the total amount that we're producing is more. So when you see statistics, remember to question whether these are absolute numbers, the absolute total, or whether they are relative numbers like percentage figures. We have a small window of opportunity. It's very hard to get every country to agree in a short time. The more people you have making a decision, the harder it is to agree in a small time. But the window of opportunity is closing. It's not because we don't know how. It's because we don't have the political will. Here's my favorite cartoonist again, the first dog on the moon, flipping out about the COP30, where they went to COP30 and they did basically nothing, because there were 1,600 fossil fuel lobbyists attending the climate conference. Fossil fuel lobbyists outnumbered entire countries, and some countries had them in their delegations. This would be one of the best opportunities to get things done, but always every country is protecting their own interests. So they protect their coal industry like Australia does, or their gas industry, or they just don't like renewables if they're Donald Trump. Not only we're not going forward fast enough, we seem to be going backwards in a lot of areas. And I read something else today in the paper about Trump revamping with the help of his lunatic friend as the health minister, or whatever they're called over there, the Secretary of Health, changing the way that vaccines are done, and saying that they don't have to kids don't have to be vaccinated to go to school, and blah, 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 blah. But one of the things that Trump did was to scrap the legal basis for tackling climate emissions. So there's no legal requirement in the US anymore. This is a critical piece. Looking at it from a different perspective, saying how this idea of climate cooperation has actually turned into a race for green power. It's just turned it into another market-driven investment capital-driven industry, rather than being as a solution. So that governments are only caring about protecting economies, not protecting the planet, and that's the basis upon which any transitions are happening. And this last slide here is about what happens when seeing is no longer believing, and again from the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, because they talk a lot about risks, the risks to the world. And when political actors can create their own history, manufacture their own documents, manufacture their own truth, if we cannot as a society agree and understand on what the problems are, what our history is and what our possible future might be, then it's so hard to cooperate and make decisions. And the whole idea of being able to work together to fix the world is being made much more difficult by disinformation and politicians who are not serving society.